The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to check out our affiliate sponsor, One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the avid podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the podcast. I have a great guest. We're going to talk about lead generation. We're going to talk about all the things you should do as a business owner to build your business. I think, Kevin, we're going to talk about LinkedIn, right? What you can do on LinkedIn. So if you're listening on your favorite podcast directory, please leave us a 5-star review. If you are watching us on YouTube, subscribe, like us, ring the bell, and all those kind of things so we can keep bringing you the kind of guests that we've been able to do over the last 4.5 years. So let's get on with today's show.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. All right, Kevin. So where are you? What part of the country are you?
We have a home in Phoenix, Arizona, where I spend probably about half of my time, and then also a house here in Southern California.
Very good.
My 2 daughters are, and my 2 grandchildren are, so I'm in California today.
You're mostly a West Coast guy. So my daughter just got into, I don't know if she's going to go or not, but she just got into University of Arizona. Phoenix is where ASU is, or is that closer to U of A?
Phoenix is ASU, which I've been a professor at I was there for about 5 years. Both of my daughters graduated from the University of Arizona. One in engineering and the other in, I'm sorry?
That's near Tucson, University of Arizona?
Near Tucson. It's about 100 miles from where we live.
And Phoenix
and
Scottsdale.
Both are great universities.
Out in Phoenix and Scottsdale, do they still have, what's that resort? The Phoenician? Is that still there?
It absolutely is still there.
I've been there for some conventions way back. Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't you share your background a little bit, training, education, whatever you want to talk about, and then, we can get into like what you're doing now for entrepreneurs and working with them and some stories about because I know you have entrepreneurial experience. So we'll share your stories, and then we'll get into your book in the second half of the show. Does that make sense?
Sure. I'll try to keep the upfront stuff relatively light and short so that we can spend most of the time, where I can share. I have a process, my 6P process on what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. And my hope is to be able to share that with people that are either struggling as entrepreneurs or thinking about going into being an entrepreneur. And I'll share the process that I used that has been incredibly successful.
Yeah, so, it's all what the podcast is about. So perfect.
Good. All right. So I want to just make sure people get really, really useful stuff, actionable things that they can do immediately after listening to the podcast. And for those of the listeners that stick to the end, we're actually going to I'm going to give away my book just
Great.
to them. So
Okay.
we'll give you the link at the end if you want.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, yeah, so real quick, born and raised in Philadelphia. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit.
You're an
Like
Eagles fan? Are you an Eagles fan then?
well, living in Arizona for 30 years, I kind of have to split my alliances with the Eagles and the Cardinals and so forth. But of course, I follow the Eagles and the Phillies as well.
I won't
But I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit ever since I was a kid. Very pragmatic. A lot of my friends who were working for back. I graduated in high school from 1973. So I've been in this world for quite some time. And a lot of my friends were working, the $1.25 an hour jobs, for the weekend, before after high school classes were done and over the weekend and so forth, bringing home like $30 a week to kind of give them some play money. And it just didn't seem, like an ideal way to use your time. So I decided, at the age of 12 to start up a lawn business, right? So where I could make $10 an hour instead of $1.25 an hour. And that grew. And the good news was, being kind of always kind of having the servant leadership model, when I was, going to the shore with my parents, or we were away, or I had I had gotten too much work, I could bring my friends and I could help them get, make some more money. So it was, if you give back, that's always kind of been a model for me. So I kind of always had this, and then I started studying drums, so I've been a drummer for 50 plus years. And I started teaching when I was 14. Once again, I could either do the $1.25 an hour, or I think back then I was charging $5 an hour, $7 an hour, something like that. And it worked really well. And it kind of really fed kind of my need. And then, I didn't have to ask my mom and dad for money, and we saved for things. And, when I wanted a better drum set, or I wanted a new bicycle, whatever, it was my money. So that's kind of where I started. I was born and raised in Philadelphia area in Levittown, Pennsylvania. I did my undergraduate in engineering and business at Drexel University, did my master's MBA at Philadelphia University, and then ultimately went to the University of Phoenix and actually did my doctorate. I have a unique distinction that I am the very first Phoenix graduate of their doctoral program.
Really?
So, yeah.
Joined.
We were the first. There were 10 of us that went through. 9 of us graduated. And then the other guy he got stuck in just rewriting his dissertation, a dozen times and never published it.
Never did it. So that's how you ended up out west? Is that what, from the doctoral program?
Actually, I worked for a company. I worked for a company called Transamerica de Laval in Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
We made big, heavy equipment. So when I got out of school, I went to work there as a product manager, and I became a program manager and ultimately a general manager for a small division for them. And we did steam turbines, compressors, pumps, big, heavy equipment, custom kind of things, not off the shelf types of things. But during that time, that 10 years I was there, I had this passion for computers. IBM computers were just coming into play, and we got one of those, and I was fascinated by it. Nobody else wanted to touch it. So I did computers. I also got heavily involved in doing promotional videos and films and so forth. So I had lots of different things, and being a musician and kind of having that creative side of the brain always trying to overtake me. Basically, I learned a lot of different things. And then surprisingly enough, Intel bought in 1988, October of 88, bought the digital video technology from RCA and General Electric and opened up a division in Princeton, which was about 29 miles from my home. And it basically brought all the things I love to do. It brought video, it brought computers. They wanted a product manager. I had set up, organizations to do this. So,
when you were at Drexel, were you an engineering major? I mean, most Drexel's engineers, but
yeah, actually they had a great degree. I started in electrical, So I did a lot of extra electrical, and I found out that it just wasn't feeding my passion. I was much more of a people person. So they had a degree called commerce and engineering. So it was half engineering, half business, and very similar to, what you would do for an industrial engineering degree. So I moved over to doing that, and that was a really good fit. So you had to pick a business major, which was marketing, and then you had to pick an engineering major, which I did electrical. So I had a little bit of, but the nice thing was you had to take all of the different courses. You had to take mechanical and civil and chemical and
that's good background, good combination of that.
Yeah, so it gave you a really good opportunity to go into lots of different industries. But with my passion being around computers and video and so forth, this was a great opportunity at Intel. And basically, to tell you how crazed I was back then, you used to have to find your jobs looking in a newspaper, right? You open up the ads and
look at the back.
And I had gotten this massive micromanager boss when I was working for this company called De Laval that Transamerica had owned, and he was just driving me crazy. And I came home one Friday, and then I just said to my wife, "Boy, I just cannot work for this guy anymore. He is just such a terrible manager." So she said, "All right, well, go just find another job." And I remember Sunday night opening up the newspaper, and there was this ad for Intel. They wanted a product manager, and they wanted somebody with an MBA, with an engineering background, had done startups, new computers, new video, like they had written it for me. So when Monday morning I went into the office, I went to my administrative assistant and said to her, book me on a flight to San Francisco. I'm going out to San Francisco, because we had distributors out there. I'm going to do some training with them. So I landed in San Francisco. I called Intel when I landed, and I said, "Hey, I am here to interview for that job." I said, "I know you're going to get 1,000 people that want this." I said, "I am the person for the position. And if you don't interview, I have an open ticket for the way back. And if you don't interview me, I'm going to come and sit in your lobby." And they thought I was a little bit crazy. But fortunately, the recruiter said, "Okay, all right. We're not paying for you, right? You live there, but you flew here." And so
were they doing? They weren't even doing chips in those days, right?
Oh no, they were doing chips. They were doing. It was right up around the time where the 286 was there,
so they were coming,
and they were looking to expand. Right, they were looking to get into video, getting into more visual for computers. So I went and had my interview. Worst interview of my life. It couldn't have gone worse.
That's funny.
The guy that was hiring had only hired chip designers. The whole foray into an acquisition for video, they had no experience. So, but the fortunate thing was he picked up the phone and he called the general manager back in Princeton and said, "Hey, there's a guy that lives there, but he flew out here and we didn't pay for him. So don't go crazy here on me. And here's what he has, but he doesn't have any chip design, but he has everything in the ad. And do you want to talk to him?" And the GM yelled at him. It's like, "Of course we want to talk to him. He's, there's not a lot of people that have that experience." And then fortunately, a couple of weeks later, they called me in. I did all my interviews. Ultimately, I think they just hired me so I would stop bothering them. They could get some work done.
That's funny. So you took the job was in Princeton, or the job was in
Princeton? Yeah, it was in Princeton. And then ultimately the division grew so large that they brought us all into the Marriott one day, and they said, "We've got good news and bad news for you." We had grown to about 170 people, and the division was targeted to grow to 300. But it was difficult for them to get engineers from the West Coast to move, to a small division on the East Coast. So they decided, we're going to offer you all jobs. The problem is they're not going to be here in Princeton. So they moved all the hardware people to Phoenix, where I went, 30 years ago. They moved the software people to Oregon, and then the business development people went to Santa Clara. The good news is they offered all of the sites to anybody. And they offered everyone, all 170 people, jobs, even including the receptionists, which to me is
as long as you would move west. That was the
as long as you move west. And they covered everything, and they put a full court press on us. They got about 90 people to take the offer. which,
Yeah. That
if
was a good
anybody's looked at
opportunity.
that, that's amazing.
Yeah, you get to live in a new place and they're paying for everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough. And I assume
Yes.
your salary didn't go down, right? So you're moving to a place where the cost of living's lower
Right.
from New Jersey, right? I mean, that's a good.
Yeah, you could buy a house that was 50% bigger for the same price.
Right,
Cost of
exactly.
living's low. Arizona was a fantastic place to bring. I had, two kids, 8 and 11,
Right.
and the two girls that went to the University of Arizona. The cool thing that we didn't know was that if you have smart kids and you're in Arizona, and they're in the top 5% of the class, they can go to any of the schools for free, free, no ride. So full
Right.
ride, nothing. Unfortunately, my kids are really bright. So one went and did her degree in electrical engineering. The other did pre-med, and it didn't cost Dad a dime. Now, of course, when the kids went to graduate school and get their doctorates, they were negotiating with Dad because Dad didn't have to pay for anything
Right,
undergraduate.
Yeah, well, I got to say, Arizona's still pretty generous. We're in New Jersey. My daughter is in, top whatever quartile of her class, and she's in their criteria range. And they, from the get-go, want her to go there. They offer, I don't know, 20 some odd thousand a year, which is like half of the tuition, which is big for, out of state. My other kids went to Indiana and Maryland. They didn't offer us boo. They told us, oh, well, you can get loans. I go, that's not financial aid. That's money I owe to other people. So, don't help you out of state. But they count that towards meeting people's financial needs, loans, which I think is unfair. But Arizona is very generous, so maybe she'll end up going out there.
Yeah. So I worked at Intel for 18 years and had a lot of different jobs. I came in as a customer marketing engineer, and then I was the product manager. Then I was the operations manager, and then the GM for the small division. But the cool thing that Intel does is every 7 years you get a 2-month sabbatical.
Wow.
Yeah. Every 7 years, kind of to go out and refresh, turn everything off. You leave the laptop there, no cell phones, nothing. They really want you to refresh and then come back. And that's usually a good opportunity to go do something different. So when I left, I as part of when you're a manager, you have to do 40 hours of training, delivering it. That's the model that Intel used. And I was doing a lot of management leadership development training. So when I went on my first sabbatical, there was the guy that was running Intel University for the world, basically said, hey, the guy that I had in Phoenix is moving to Oregon, and I need someone to manage Intel University for all of Arizona. Just to give you an idea, they were doing like 600 to 900 courses a month. So this
is only for their employees, or no? It was the
just for the employees, right? Yeah. And so a good portion of them were for the fab, right? Where the chips are made, right? So you have to do lots and lots of safety training on an ongoing basis. So a good portion of that, probably more than 50%, was for fab related. So so he said, hey, would you like to kind of come over to the dark side, to HR, move from the technical side, because I was managing chip designs. And I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so I managed Intel University for several years. And then I had the opportunity, my last 6 years there, or actually 7 years, I spent managing Intel's learning and development for the world for the first and midline manager programs. And we used to do 2,500 managers and leaders in 10 different countries each year. And when I retired from Intel in June of 2007, we had just finished training our 40,000th manager. So,
wow. So this is training. It's not just training; it's retraining, updating, initial training.
This was through one specific program, the program I was running, which was a immersive program for 5 to 6 days that we take 126 managers off site, in all around the world, and give them all the basics around communication and conflict and planning. And
these were new hires, or no? They were
first managers, and then we also had a program for middle managers. The first line one was called Managing Through People. The middle managers of managers, was called Leading Through People. And so So we did that. And, but the interesting thing, Mitch, was that, I had a great mentor and a coach at Intel for many, many years. And I had a 10-year plan. And my 10-year plan was when I hit 50, I was going to punch out of the corporate world and then become an entrepreneur. It was a good plan. I had a great financial advisor. I had a wonderful mentor at Intel. We met on a monthly basis. We crafted the 10-year roadmap of where I had to be, from my knowledge, my learning, my experience, my finances, my network, all of those things. We had this kind of nice ramp time.
Did Intel have a formal mentorship program? Is that how you met this guy? Or was it a guy that you knew, got to know, and then he mentored you?
Well, also an interesting story.
Okay.
It was a woman. She's about 5 foot tall. Her name was Cecilia. She was the manager of Intel HR for all of Intel. So she she was HR for HR.
So she was the HR person.
She was the HR person reporting to executive staff.
Got it. Okay.
And wonderful mentor. Intel did not have a mentoring program.
No.
And a lot of stuff that I had done in my MBA, I recognized I needed one. So I went out and I said, let me find someone that has contact at a very senior level, like with Andy Grove and, Craig Barrett and people at the very, very top level, CEOs and presidents.
Right.
Because I need that point of reference, because ultimately I want to move into, working with those kind of people. So I found Cecilia. I wrote up a proposal for her because there was no mentoring program in Intel.
Okay.
And she said, yeah, okay, let's do this. And we did it for 6 years. And she's a little bit of a jokester. She's from New York. And she called me one morning, I remember, and said, hey, we have to terminate our mentoring. I can't do this anymore. And we're done. And I thought, oh my God, what did I do? And and she said, yeah, I really can't mentor you if I'm going to hire you. So she said, hey,
bring you over to her side.
Yeah, she said, we've had a chance to work together for 5 years. You've got this mentoring program that you designed. I want you to do the same thing for all of Intel, or actually for HR with the intent. So I designed Intel's mentoring program for HR. And the program I said, design it in such a way that you can take HR off the top and just put Intel there. And then we are going to give it to Intel after we're running it for, 18 months or so, and to prove the concept.
So basically, you wanted your own mentor. And as a result, Intel started a mentoring program.
Yes. Well, it wasn't because of me. No, it was just because Cecilia recognized that.
Right. Exactly. Right. You had been mentoring with some other guy in the company who you had become friends with and looked to it for advice, and he wasn't in that position. That might not have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Cecilia she had 5 years to kind of learn what worked and what didn't. So we put all of that knowledge together, and we created an awesome mentoring program. And ultimately, after about 18 months, we handed it over to Intel, and they ran it. And then all the stuff hit the fan, with the .com thing and lots of the things that were the right thing to do kind of got left to the side.
Right. All right. But you finished 18 years of a 10-year plan, you said, right? So kind of went a little bit longer than you planned. And then you said 50, you would have been at 10 years, right? So that means at 58,
No, I actually did. I didn't start the 10-year plan until about 8 years into it, right? So
so it was a 10-year plan. You stuck to the plan.
Stuck to the plan for sure.
And so you're about 50 then when you ventured
I just turned 51 actually. When I was 50, I had a great financial advisor, and I remember him calling me. Chris called me on, and I've had him for 30 years. And he called me and said, happy birthday, of course. And he said, we've been working on this plan, and anytime that you want to punch out and just go do whatever you want, you can do that. And you don't have to make any more money the rest of your life. It doesn't matter, which is what the plan was. So I felt very, very fortunate to be able to do that. But then he talked me out of it. He said, are you still learning? Are you still building your network? Are you still having a good time? Are you making a difference? Do you like your boss? And was yes, 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 yes. And he said, we've picked 50 as a kind of a nominal number. Just kind of look for that message from God. And fortunately, like 9 months later, I got the message from God. They brought in a new VP from finance into HR, and he said, all this leadership crap that you're doing, we're not going to do that anymore.
And doorbell, yeah.
And I said, I called Chris and I said, hey, Chris, I think I just got the message from God here. So two of my colleagues were in a similar boat, that they were looking to move out of the corporate world as well. So in the June 17th, or actually June 1st, we all handed in our resignation, and 2 weeks later, we had a company, and we called it Magna Leadership Solutions. So three of us.
Your plan, because of you involved in management, leadership, and training. That was your venture. You were going to go and do for other companies or businesses or individuals, bring the kind of leadership and training that you had spent so many years developing.
Yeah. And I think the big thing was what I recognized is, there's not a lot of companies, small to medium sized companies, that have a $10 million budget or more than that to be able to develop and deploy these kind of programs. Right. I learned so much, I developed so much, over the running Intel University, as well as the 6 years of running the management leadership development programs, that I really wanted to give back. And fortunately, from a financial perspective, I could do that without having to worry about, paying the mortgage or, car loans and so forth. So that's what we've been doing. This year we celebrated our 16th year in business. Last year was our best year ever. And we get to go and help, small to medium sized organizations, or even big organized departments within bigger organizations.
Yeah.
We help them, develop people that are true leaders, and the advantage that they get is that they get their people to stay. And particularly in today's market, when there is, it's much more of a seller's market. People just can't fill the position. So, developing your leaders so that people stay is worth, a fortune to most organizations.
There's definitely an area of kind of, branding your environment and branding your company for the employee to say, because I think a lot, especially the younger people, they kind of feel like you need us better, more than we need you, which is probably not true. It's just their perception.
Yeah.
And I think that companies are looking to, attract the right kind of people, and they're competing. But I also think that leadership and leadership development at the low level, very lacking. I mean, if you think about leadership training, you think of corporations, you think of Johnson & Johnson, and you think of these big companies where they have the budget, right? So they bring in guys like you to speak and to train, and they have programs and all kinds of stuff. But small companies really go off the rails when their leadership is lacking, when the boss really doesn't know how to properly motivate people, empower them, make them feel like they're part of things. And I don't think people really recognize the negative impact that it has on the business's growth and development. And, business starts getting siloed, and people aren't communicating. They're doing the wrong things, and they're not supporting each other. They don't even know what the vision is. They're just worried about what the boss is going to be pissed about or whatever. And I think it's an area that, if you're able to do it, especially if you're able to do it from a give back standpoint, where you can't always get paid as much as you should be getting paid for what you do, but you can still help a lot of people. It all comes back, I think, right? It all comes around the circle.
Yeah. One of the things that, the normal phone call you get is, it's usually from organizations that are kind of late to the game, where their turnover is 20 or 30 or 40%, and they've recognized that they need some kind of intervention. And they want to know, like, well, what's your program cost? And one of the things that we developed was, and anybody can access this, we offer it for free. It's called, if you go to attritioncalculator.com, the first thing that we do is we ask who's ever calling, whether it's the HR person or a manager or even the CEO, we say, what's your turnover and what's it costing you? And without fail, none of them know what it is. So we say, let's go on. It takes about 30 seconds to figure it out. tell me your number of people, tell me your turnover, tell me the average salary. You can do it by department or the whole company, whatever. And you hit a button, and it uses about 25 different variables, industry standard variables, and it says, bam, okay, you're spending. We did this for a big company up in North Phoenix. They were losing about $7 million a year in their turnover. And then we said, what would you invest to save? I said, we probably can't get you all 7 million. We can get you half of it.
Yeah.
Right. What would you invest to save $3 million? Right. And we said, how about, what kind of return on investment would you like? 5, 10, 10x, 100x.
Yeah. No,
right?
Look, sales.
Yeah. So
I'm assuming from the standpoint of the employer, for people listening, right? You're talking about like the cost to retrain an employee, the lost productivity because you have a new employee, probably customers you lose because that other person left or whatever. All those kind of variables that fit into that. That's where those figures come from.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can see if any of the listeners go to the site, you can see it gives you the whole breakdown of what they're using, and you can tweak with the numbers. But ultimately, like this client in Phoenix, they were losing $7 million, and we said, how about if we gave you, 10x or 100x return on 10x return on your investment? Would you spend 70 to save 700, or would you spend 30 to save 300? And usually we can find in the first conversation is if the client goes, gee, I really don't have $30,000 to spend, or whatever the number is. Right. Then we know, hey, you're not a good client for us, right? There's lots of people that you can do training. We don't do training. Everything is applied, right? You bring in the real problems, and we give you the tools to work through them. So you're doing real work instead of training, because training is a sunk cost. We want you to invest in your people. And then, we'll guarantee a certain percentage, whatever your turnover is, we'll guarantee that, and we'll continue to work with you till you get there. So that the value pricing seems to work a whole lot better rather than just something that's a sunk cost.
Okay. So why don't we do this? We're about 32 minutes in. Let me break for commercials.
Okay.
Some few people that pay me a little bit of money, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about your 6 points. We'll talk about your book. We'll talk about all kinds of things that people should know. I think the book has something to do with LinkedIn, you mentioned, and we can start giving people some tools and some ideas. All right?
Sure.
Okay.
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Maybe you're looking to get into podcasting, or you just want to market your business. Maybe you want to do it for enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts, as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created especially for our listeners.
Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
All right, Kevin. So We're back. This is all great stuff because, I talk to people about sales. I talk to people about marketing. I talk to people about leadership. And it's really, I'm not sure what's more important. I think it's just, they're all important. And I think people, I guess they call you, they don't really know the answer, but they know something's wrong, right?
Right.
And they clearly having a problem. People are leaving and it's not a good environment. And you feel bad going to work every morning and those kind of stuff. So the intangible. So they know they got a problem. They just got to figure out what they got to do about it.
And the really good news is pretty much everything that they have to do with their leaders is all pretty much free, right? It's really about paying attention. It's listening to employees. It's about, empowering them, although I'm not crazy about that word. It's right. About developing them, right? Mm-hmm. If you do, there's lots of surveys out recently as one employees, even the current generation, they want to be developed. They want flexibility.
Right.
They want to learn. And, if you can spend some time there, which is relatively inexpensive or of no cost, when they're ready to make a decision where somebody says, hey, I can give you $2 more an hour, give you an extra 5,000, they'll have second thoughts about it. If they're in an environment, it always goes back to, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And if you have that developed, you've developed that relationship with them where they can come and talk to you, you're going to be able to keep them. And like I said, use the attrition calculator. You can just do it for one person, and you're going to find out it's, in normal salaries, you're going to save $20,000, $30,000, $40,000
Sure.
Just on losing one person. And if you multiply that, you're losing, like the company we were working with, they were losing about 10 of them a month, right? It was just
10 people a month.
Yeah, it was a big organization and they had 30%, 32% turnover. And, and the problem was it took about 18 months to train the people. And they would, right around 1 year, most people would have enough and bam, they were gone.
So they didn't even get through the training.
They didn't even get to the point where they were at kind of a peak performance. They were still, working and developing and, it was a customer support environment. They were doing that, but they hadn't even got to the point where they could move to a second or third level support person. So It was really frustrating for them, frustrating for the employees as well.
Yeah. Kevin, how do people find you? Like, this company in Northern Arizona, how'd they find you? Was it a referral? You put an ad in the paper? You take an ad on the Goodyear blimp? I mean, what are you doing
Well, the first thing is we've never done, in the 16 years, we've never done any advertising whatsoever. So we have a website. You can find us if you go to magnaleadership.com, you can see all the stuff that we're doing. You can reach me, Kevin at magnaleadership.com. I'm always open to talk to people, about, and I do lots and lots of entrepreneurial coaching for individuals. The promise I will give to anyone who reaches out to me is you'll get zero sales pitch from me. I'm not going to try to sell you on me or our company or whatever. I want to learn about you. And if there's something I can help with, I'll offer it to you. And quite often I'll say, hey, for what you're looking for, I'm not the right person, but I know lots of people are. Here's other people you can go to.
Sure.
And that's just free for them to do that.
Right. So you're doing marketing, networking, referral-based stuff. I mean, somebody's got to find you somehow, right?
Yeah. Here's my best tip for everyone. If you don't have a Google business page, that's the very first thing you have to do.
Right.
That's the first thing I tell when I coach people that are starting up new businesses. The very first thing you have to do, even before you do your web page, is do the Google business page. We've gotten, we usually probably get about 2, 3, 4 inquiries a year. And of that, we probably convert at least 50% of them. And you can set it up. In fact, I just coached somebody yesterday and I had told him about doing this a couple of weeks ago. And he called me yesterday. He said, yeah, I set up my Google business page. It took me 5 minutes. Then I spent out 55 minutes kind of honing it. And it's all up and running. So under an hour, to do that. So that's the first thing to do. And then I'll talk about the 6 P's of the other things that you have to do. And one of those is what we call presence, which is a P, and that's kind of how you, people find you through social media. And each social media we use a lot of LinkedIn YouTube, Twitter, we have Facebook business page, those kind of things. We don't do, for the stuff that we're doing, executive coaching and leadership, we don't use TikTok or Instagram or
it's
those
not the right
types of
platform for it.
Right.
But you're right. Presence is important. I think that if you look at somebody, if I'm looking for a company to work with, a lawyer, a company like yours, whatever, if they don't have like the basic things that are easy to do, it looks suspicious. Like, why wouldn't they have a Google business page? Why wouldn't they have a couple of pages on social media? It's free and it's easy and it's the kind of things you should do first. So it always calls into question, like, do they have really their organization together? Are they real? Or they know anything about the world, this type of stuff? And I did the same thing. I got my Google thing. It's funny thing was somebody just recently emailed me and said, hey, I looked you up on Google, your Google page, your phone number is wrong. So I'm thinking, there's an old phone number on there. So I go on the Google page, there's some phone number. I don't know how it got changed. Somebody hacked the page or whatever. Don't recognize the number. It's just some random phone number. It doesn't go anywhere. And I had to email to them to change it. I don't think they've done yet, but follow up.
And the tip I give everyone with the Google business page is, so we have also our webmaster is a good SEO kind of guy, search engine optimization. And what he tells me is, what the business page really likes is consistency. So we try to post a photo at least once or twice a month. We post our articles there. You go in and do a little bit of modification, so it shows that you're active. It doesn't take a lot of work, and you don't have to be a programmer to do it. It's super easy. So that's a great place to start. And then, of course, you really do need a website. One of the things that I have found is when somebody contacts me and they want to try to sell me something, if it's joe@hotmail.com or at Yahoo or AOL. I've had even one guy just recently who had AOL. I'm not sure, wasn't even sure that
There's
still
some
existed.
attorneys that still have it. I deal with them. They still have AOL email address. It doesn't look like
so. It's
really
like get your own URL, right? Like get your own domain name, right? So it's what is it? I think it must be $10 a year for that.
Yeah, you do it through Google Workspace or whatever, and it's not gmail.com. It's bindhackerlaw.com. Right.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So all right. So do you want to talk about the 6 Ps?
Yes, please. Let's do it.
All right. So let's start with from the question that you started me with is the first P is what we call presence, right? So presence is your social media presence, how people can find you, right? And you need to pick the platform, and you need to be consistent. We post on social media every single day. The very first thing I do, first thing in the morning, is I get up, I do about 10 or 15 minutes. I have a RSS feed that feeds me, probably 20 or 30 articles. I review the articles, and then we use a program called, and there's lots of them, like HubSpot, but we use one called Meet Edgar, right? If anybody hasn't used that, awesome platform.
Is that a multi-platform posting tool like Buffer or Hootsuite or any of those kinds?
Exactly. Exactly.
Meet Edgar, you said?
Meet Edgar. The thing I love about Meet Edgar, and we had hired a virtual assistant probably about 10 years ago, and she got all of this set up for us. The one thing about Meet Edgar, which I really love, is you can identify, it defaults it posts to Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn business page, posts there, posts to Facebook. So you can click and you can do them all, or you can just do whichever ones you want. But the cool thing about Meet Edgar is it has a function in there that just says edit, and you click it and it goes in and it scans the article and it pulls out key quotes. And rather than just posting the article, it pulls out a key quote in a quotation mark up front, which kind of looks like this is your quote. And it gives you kind of a highlight from the article, and it gives you about, usually about 4 to 6 variations. And then it posts different variations, like one might go to Twitter, one might go to YouTube. And it makes it look very, very personalized, which is just and I think it's like $350 for the year. Right. Okay. And you can do unlimited posts. So something like that. So find your presence.
Okay.
This is how people are going to find you. So that's the first P. The second P is what we call product, right? You need to have something unique, some unique shtick that differentiates you And quite often it's a combination of elements. And I think one of the things that when I've done coaching for people who are between jobs or looking to change jobs or whatever, the first thing I ask them is like, tell me about yourself as if this is an interview. And everybody's the same way. It's like I have, 10 years of experience in doing this, and I have these degrees, and, I have an interest in this, and I've worked for this company, and bing, 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 bing. And then my last question after they're done kind of telling me why I should hire them, I ask them one critical question. Like, what will the next person tell me that's any different than what you just told me? Because they're all applying for the same job. Right. And usually the response is, well, probably they would tell you the same thing. So what makes you different, right? And you need to really think about that. So create a product. Our differentiator is, we're all nerd engineers, in the company. We've made that transition into leadership development. We have doctoral degrees in the stuff that we're teaching, and we all have, 20, 30 plus years of doing the kind of things that you would, what you would do if you were going to build your own leadership development. And having, particularly from a technical perspective, having that ability to sit down, because I can speak nerd, to sit down with people that are product managers. When I was a product manager, I had clients that, I managed the relationship with Apple and Intel and Microsoft and HP and Epson and Canon and those guys, and being able to sit down, because I like the techie stuff as well, adds that level of credibility. And what we found is most people who are really good trainers are great trainers, but they don't come with a deep knowledge of the tech side. And that's a differentiator. And we bake that into our product. Particularly we do a lot with manufacturing and a lot of high tech stuff. And that's rather than just kind of generic type of things. So presence, product. The third thing you need is you need people, which is your network. Right now, we're probably running about 20,000 connections. I'd say probably better than half of those are executives on LinkedIn. And there's
like you and your partners.
I'm sorry?
Collectively, you mean you and your partners have about
me.
Just you.
Just me. Just me. And then our business page is running about just a little under 2,000 at the moment, because we didn't start that up till about a year and a half ago. But what we're going to give away right at the end is, so I co-wrote a book with one of my graduate students from ASU when I was teaching in ASU called Ready, Set, Get Hired. And it's really a book about how we used my process to find clients and develop relationships with clients, build that network, how to do that to get a job. It was written by Rita Creasy-Reed, and she used the process. It's all in the book. And she got her Nirvana job. Took some time, particularly when you're looking for senior management position. It takes a little bit of time to do that. So build your network. You need to be, one of the things we found out as an entrepreneur early on is that you need to use the 80-20 rule, and 80% of your time should be selling, connecting, having a conversation, not cold calling, making connections, giving things away, helping others, right? So that you can build those relationships. And the other 20% of the time is on development of your shtick or your product. Right. One of the things that we fell victim to was we didn't have that balance early on, because we wanted to develop lots and lots of stuff, and you need to have a good pipeline. We use the 10% rule. You need 10 people in the organizations in a pipeline, and anticipating you're going to get one of those. At any time.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kevin, lawyers are famous for this. Like, they want to do their work. They don't want to get involved in networking, business development. And I always tell them all, listen, you should be spending 80% of your time developing new relationships, networking, finding new business, and squeeze in the work in the other 20%, and you will never starve. You do it the other way, you're going to have ups and downs like a roller coaster. You'll be out of work. You got to look for more work. You got to fill the pipeline. You just can't operate that way. It's not good. And I'm glad that
so spend that time. You're going to get a really good return on investment on that. So that's the third one. Presence, product, people. The fourth one is provisions. Right. This is your cash. This is your ability to invest in yourself. And I learned a great deal before we pulled the trigger and we all punched out of our really nice corporate cushy jobs with 401ks and retirement plans and, nice paychecks and healthcare and all of that.
Right.
We spoke to, I'm part of the Target Training International and that network of consultants. And I talked to probably a dozen different ones, and they all told me I have this kind of common theme. They said, you need to be willing to invest in yourself and your company for at least 18 to 24 months. And during that period of time, if you get any kind of clients that are feeding that cash flow, you need to think of that as a windfall. But most organizations, particularly consulting, is going to go out of business in that period of time. 85%, I think, is the number they shared with me. And if you're not willing to invest in that, and if you're making whatever, let's call it $10,000 a month, and
Right.
you're there, and you're not making any money for 18 months, you have to think about it as a lost opportunity, cost opportunity.
Right.
That's
You gotta think about
$180,000.
Yeah, and you got to think about whether you have staying power to do that.
And most people don't think of that way. And if you don't really have this belief that you're going to be successful, then what happens is you end up starting to take bad business, and it becomes focused on the money instead of doing
Right.
what you want to
pay
do.
your bills.
Right? Money should be the byproduct.
Right.
So,
And then what happens? You end up bringing in more of the bad clients that you didn't want, because now you're stuck on that road where people are referring you and you get noted for, talk to me. And next thing you know, you get all these clients you don't want to work with, and you're just miserable.
Yeah. So provisions, that's the fourth item.
Okay. I got it.
And then the fifth item that I have of the 6 P's is publication. One of the things that we had done, which probably one of the best things we had ever done, is when we started the company in 2007, in the first year, we wrote our first book. It's called The Leader of Oz. And we took the story of the Wizard of Oz, and we wrote a business parable about this company in Kansas that gets whisked away and dropped into Silicon Valley. And you got the wicked VP from the East and the wicked VP from the West.
Sounds like a familiar story. Okay.
It was awesome. Excuse me. We wanted to write a book that had all of the heavy academics in it, but we wanted it to be fun to read. So it's really our system of leadership, of how to build teams and how to build leaders. And the one thing that all of my consulting, the successful consultants that coached us ahead of time said, has to be a hardcover. So it is a hardcover book, right? They said, do not do it. They said there's a different look and feel, particularly because you're selling this to a CEO or a president. There's a different look and feel of people when they feel that hardcover book. There's some sense of legitimacy. And by the way, the difference was, I think it was 75 cents for the hardcover.
The cost of making the hardcover versus
the soft. Yeah, it was like it was 75 cents. It was like nothing. So
that's crazy.
So having that ability, we're actually getting ready to go on our third printing. We've sold out our first 2 printings. Excuse me. And having that ability to hand that to a prospective client or send it to them in the mail is worth its weight in gold. And it's really the closing mechanism, right? And what we tell people is, hey, this is how we develop leaders, and you can read it in a fun way. We created the audiobook so you can get it on Audible as well. It's about a 3-hour listen or so. We designed it so you could read it on an airplane. And it has, at the end of each chapter, it has what we call Marvelous Leadership Secrets. So it has kind of a summary of the concepts that we want you to get out of it. So it's very, very practical kind of book.
So Kevin, when you talk about publication, you don't necessarily mean that everyone should go write a book, right? But people should be creating collateral material to improve their perception of, people's perception of their knowledge and, the fact they know what they're doing and that they've been in the business. Or should everyone write a book? Is that what you're saying?
yes and yes. Right. I'm saying they should be publishing articles. You know, I probably have like 35 plus articles that I've published around different concepts. But what I am saying is, and everyone has told us this, is you have to write the book, right? Because most people don't recognize how easy and simple it is to get published, and particularly today, like, 16 years ago when we were starting, it was much more difficult. Today, you
write a book, you find an on-demand publisher, they get it on Amazon in 2 weeks.
Bam, done. Right, exactly. And you can either do it if you really are not a good writer. You can go. We've worked with organizations like Upwork. You can go and get somebody to help ghostwrite it for you, or edit it, or whatever. So there's lots and lots of ways to do that.
Right.
So you definitely want that in your tools.
Okay, that was number 5. So
right.
one more page.
So the 6th one is what I call persistence. Right. This is the determination to continue through the difficulty. Right.
Right. Well, that's probably the most important thing, because everyone faces adversity in business. Everyone got to be resilient, right?
It is. In fact, we're just releasing a program called Leading for Resilience. We did our pilot yesterday with a bunch of healthcare professionals. And the thing with persistence is first of all, willpower is not an unlimited resource, and you have to recognize that. And as you get into it, particularly, if you're into developing things at 18 months or whatever, I remember having that 18-month call with everybody on the staff, and we hadn't landed our big project yet. Actually, it came in at 19 months, and it was, I don't know, $250,000. So it was a really nice chunk of change, but it took us that amount of time to kind of get that PO. One of the things that I tell people is, for the persistence, you need to have a mentor or coach or colleague or confidant or somebody that can continue to work for you.
Right.
And whether if they're available, at no cost to you, fantastic. And if they're not, go find someone that can help you accelerate your business. And a lot of people say, well, gee, I'm starting up a business. I don't have whatever, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a month to be able to help get the right level of expertise. And my point to them, which the other consultant said to me is what would it be worth to you if you can bring in that client 1 month earlier, right? One month earlier. What would that $300,000 or $250,000 kind of translate to? Well, so it'd be an extra $10,000. So get it
Right.
a month earlier. That's an extra $10,000 that you didn't have, and if you've spent $10,000 for the year coaching or $5,000 or whatever the number is, it's a really, really good investment. And I think the thing that we found, Mitch, is that too many people try to do it all on their own. They don't partner with people. They don't create alliances. And the whole marketing thing, as you know, is a tough business, particularly, at least I have 30 years of experience of doing marketing and development, and it's still even hard for us. So I'd say is maintain the persistence, go get a coach, get somebody that can be helpful to you, and you can tap into their expertise so you can be successful that much earlier. Because they'll tell you, in the 18 to 24 month range, if something hasn't hit where it's going to be able to fund the organization, most people are going to be back kind of, looking in the corporate world of going back into the big machine.
Very good. Very good. All right. So we got the 6. I mean, look, a lot of this stuff, the funny thing is a lot of this stuff is like, you're like, no kidding. Like, it's intuitive, like presence and stuff, but people don't do it.
They don't. Yeah.
They don't do it. And the persistence is probably the hardest part, because I don't think people realize how hard it's going to be to be in business for themselves or run their companies, or, on the good day. I always tell people, if you like it on the worst days, then you'll be fine, because the good days are the easy parts. And it, every life just doesn't happen in a straight line, if that's the right term, It just, there's bumps and bruises in life, and you got to be persistent. The best ones. I had a guy on my podcast on Thursday. Yesterday, we did a live episode, and he told this story of resiliency and persistence. You wouldn't believe. He was like from Ukraine, and then he went to, I don't know, United Arab Emirates or something. There was some program where they would pay to have you over there. He was a waiter, was making no money, working 24 hours a day. He's like, there's got to be something better. And one day he finds a book, or somebody gives him a book about Facebook ads, that you could sell things on Facebook. And he's like, I thought like Facebook goes to like Coca-Cola goes to Facebook and they write a check for $250,000 and they put ads. I didn't think you could do it yourself. And he starts to sell this whole world, and now he's successful, but he had nothing. He was broke. But look, being unsuccessful was not an option for him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, he wouldn't accept it. So and that's what persistence is all about, right? You can accept it or not.
I think for me, being kind of having the, the provisions, the cash, the P, where, if I didn't make any money, it didn't matter, I think is always a little bit detrimental. You got to have a little bit of hunger there. The hunger for me comes from what I've been seeing with lots and lots of organizations just struggling with bad management. And, the hunger comes with is I just really want to help them, right? Because, the whole management leadership stuff really is free to them if they spend the time doing it and developing their people.
Yeah, I mean, look, out of fairness to all the other people that struggle, you haven't gone the path of, failing and struggling and figuring out. You went, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't do what you do who went the corporate route. They would stay in corporations. They're comfortable. They'll do their training. They'll develop programs, maybe go to another company. They wouldn't go out and do it, like you did. So, maybe the fact that you are a planner and you did have it planned out and you did do it methodically got you to where you are because you didn't have to,
It is, right. Having a plan is completely invaluable. The challenge that I find is I probably do one call a month of colleagues that I've had either at Intel or outside that have gotten downsized, right? Like, division, they cut the division in half or whatever. Yeah. And that's when they're thinking about what do I do next? And that is not the time to be thinking about it.
No.
And
thus the accidental entrepreneur. People end up in entrepreneurship by default. And look, lawyers are the same way. I get guys call me, they're I'm looking for work. And I'm like, okay, well, you're 55 years old. You're my age. What kind of book of business do you have? And they're like, well, I don't have a book of business. I need a job. They're going to hire the 35-year-olds and not hiring the 55. I hate to tell you, but we're not that valuable, and you're in trouble because you haven't developed the clientele and things like that. So it's, that's a difficult position to be in when you just followed the system and stayed with it. And, corporations don't always act like people matter, although there's no people, there's no companies left. But, it's kind of ironic, but that's what happens, right? You get downsized, the industry changes, whatever, there's a big shakeup. And now what do you do? And I met a lot of people during pandemic. There's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs nowadays, Kevin, that are, some of them maybe shouldn't be entrepreneurs or they don't have any other choice. And I've seen more individual business owners and entrepreneurs in the last 3 or 4 years than in my entire life up until that point, because the world has changed, and they're not all doing it willingly.
Yeah. And I would say entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right? That it is very much a roller coaster. And if that's not, kind of what feeds you, then you want to have second thoughts about it. But I think most of the calls that I get are like, hey, I've been downsized. I see you've been doing this for 16 years. Can you just hire me? All I have to do is like work one day a month. I'll charge you $10,000. And then the other 29 days I'll be off surfing on the beach, and what they don't understand is it really doesn't work that way. It's, it's a 24/7 thing. You're doing to get that, whatever it is, $5,000-$10,000 a day.
You're working harder than you used to work. Yeah.
Right. So,
but you know what? The resources are out there. If you become a student of the business, if you say, listen, I want to be successful at this, they can find people like you. They can find coaches. They can learn how to write a business plan and read the books. Yeah. And, that's how this kid from the UAE made it, because he found the resource. He figured they were out there. He found them. Then he connected with people, and he started mentoring and coaching with people just because he was sharing things on Facebook. Like, this was all e-commerce, right? All ClickFunnels type of stuff. And he's like, listen, you can do this just for free. He like putting in these forums. You can do this. This is how I did it and whatever. And then somebody called him one day and said, hey, will you help me set up my e-commerce business? The guy later became his partner. And it happened just because he was giving back because of all the struggles that he had. But he became a student of the business. He knew he had to learn more and more and invest in himself. And like you said, I think you brought that up, that you have to invest in yourself and invest in your knowledge and teach yourself, and always do that, and have a coach or a mentor. I'm a big, you heard the ad for Tab, for one of my sponsors, big proponent of advisory boards or an advisor or a mentor. But you're right, it doesn't always have to be paid. You can find people who who can help you until you're ready to, pay somebody or whatever, but don't do it alone. Nobody's made it alone, very rarely.
Yeah, I've had lots and lots of help. I think the last tip I'll give everyone, Mitch, is early on, we created alliances, in particular alliance with one organization that we went and said, hey, you have the kind of clients that could benefit from our stuff, and we're complementary to you. We're not doing the same stuff that you're doing. They were doing things on negotiations and conflict, and we didn't do that at the time. We did a lot of leadership stuff, and we partnered with them, and they had lots of clients that wanted leadership stuff. And they said, yeah, they've been asking for that. They had a business for 30 years. They've been asking for that, and we just don't know what to do. I would love to bring you in as part of, our brand. And then you tell us what you want to charge. We'll put an adder on top of that, and you make money, and we make money, right? And that way we're more of a full service for the client.
Alliances are key. Very good, very good. Well, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for spending now more than an hour with me. Not everybody makes it past an hour, so I appreciate it. And we'll put a link in the show notes if people are interested in the book. They can purchase the book. If you want to give a couple of away, if we get some emails for asking for it, I'll let you know.
Sure. And I'm going to give you a URL for the book.
Okay.
It's magnaleader.co, not com.
Okay.
/capital J as just for you. Right.
Okay. Fine.
So, and anyone can get it'll show up as a PDF as a reviewer's copy. And if you like it, reviews are always appreciated. And if you don't like it, don't leave us a review. No strings attached. And if you have questions on it, you can just reach me at Kevin@MagnaLeadership.
Great. We'll put all those in the show notes, and I can't thank you enough for coming on.
All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.